It's mostly going to be a Q&A slash ask me anything kind of thing. Gonna talk about, how I got started streaming, tell a story I get asked a lot in regards to that, as well as bring some of you all on board to talk about how you got started streaming, while you're streaming, etc. Looking forward to hearing from some of you. Good evening, Packet 43 and Chris Fratz. Just got a mic arm today on a friend's recommendation, and my mic sounds better thanks to it. Sweet. Alright, it's officially 6 p.m. Welcome to our third official Discord stage channel event. This is a new feature through Discord that allows you to have a speaker and a listener. It's kind of like a webinar, but without video. I really hope they implement video or screen sharing or something at some point, because this could replace some of my Twitch streams and be a kind of cool interactive thing, or something that you could restrict just to patrons or something like that. If you are not in the Discord server, we do have a text chat in the Discord server specifically for this event. Of course, if you are in the server, you can use it, of course. And my server is about teaching you tech education, helping you with your streams. We've got channels for photography, videography, posting tutorials, finding skins for programs, all sorts of cool stuff. Those of you unfamiliar with myself, I am Adam, also known as EposVox. I am a tech educator here on, well, here isn't YouTube. I guess here on Discord as well, but on YouTube and Twitch and the like. I have been making educational videos for a stupid long amount of time. I primarily cover content creation and live streaming, but I cover general tech ed and gaming related things as well as time allows. Currently, my branding is focused around the Stream Professor moniker, so that's why the server's called the Stream Professor's Classroom. Someone thought it was clever at some point, and we rolled with it. And yeah, so this is a Discord stage channel. I get a lot of questions about how they go. I have officially opened the request, but of course, as we're starting out here, if you just jump right in, I'm not going to immediately approve it, but we will have you all on board. So, in terms of my career and how I got started, this is something that has come up, I think, in the past, the previous stage event for sure, and I believe the past couple Twitch streams I've done. And I have participated in a couple podcasts and even a blog post for someone at some point about this, and I've mostly lost track of them, so I don't mind rehashing these kinds of things and talking about it, because I think it's interesting to see where everyone comes from, and a lot of the questions we've gotten lately have to do with finding your own career path and the like. I actually got started originally hoping to be a games journalist, effectively. Like, I wanted to go work for a games magazine back when that was the thing, and then later on I wanted to go work for Machinima and G4 TV. Machinima went under while I was still in college, as I was finishing and hoping to move to LA or whatever, and G4 TV shut down not long after. Machinima is still sort of around as a full-screen sub-network, MCN on YouTube, but the name is pretty much all they have left, and they have deleted pretty much all the content archives, which is very unfortunate. G4 TV is actually back. They got new funders and all sorts of stuff, and they're having a resurgence right now with X-Play and Attack of the Show. Well, Attack of the Show branding hasn't been used yet, but X-Play and the like, even with Adam Sessler and Kevin Pereira. So that's been pretty awesome. But obviously, I guess technically I started YouTube in middle school. I actually started YouTube being effectively a video mule, so to speak, as for my quote-unquote clan members and friends from a service called Xfire. Xfire was a service that launched before Steam was really a big thing, that allowed you to get in-game overlays for chat, to manage friends lists, server browsers. You could take screenshots and upload videos. And we're talking 2004, 2005, 2006. So this was very low-res, low-frame-rate video, but a feature that no one else had. And then Google Video popped up, and a site called YouTube rolled around. And a lot of the people in the circles that I was in wanted their clips up from Xfire onto YouTube, and I happened to know how to do that, and got my foot in the door with YouTube doing that. And then also doing some other shady stuff like re-uploading popular videos, because at the time on YouTube, popular videos getting a lot of traffic were actually harder to play back for viewers, and so it was actually considered a service to re-upload the more popular videos so that people with crappier internet connections could actually watch them. Obviously, major copyright issues, that channel no longer exists, and I would never recommend anyone do that today. But I didn't set out on YouTube to do anything like that, but then the first couple generations of gaming YouTubers were a thing, and I started watching many like Hutch and CNanners, Blame Truth, names that many don't even exist anymore, but some do, and was dead set. As I was wrapping up high school, we had Halo Reach come out, and I was getting capture cards and making videos like that. I was also doing some tech unboxings of the PC parts and the capture cards and stuff, so I was already touching that, but I was dead set. I wanted to be a gaming content creator. I wanted to do this thing. And then I transitioned from, I was originally going to college for programming. I switched schools and went to school for journalism, and I wanted to graduate from college, move to LA, go work for Machinima with the Machinima crew, or work on a TV channel like G4 or something. And pretty much all of those options became unavailable as I finished college. And so I just continued. Actually, during college, I got the opportunity to work for a YouTube MCN and effectively go full-time on YouTube. I was still doing the contract work for the MCN, but all of my work was YouTube related. And that's where things really started to shift. And so around that point is when OBS became a thing, and I started making some of the first OBS tutorials on that. And things really started blooming from there in terms of tech. Earlier in, like a couple years prior, however, a website called Justin.tv was gaining popularity, and people were streaming all sorts of weird stuff like eating and just generally talking, and then people started streaming games there, and I wanted to try it, but at home I had terrible internet. I had probably DSL up to a certain point, and then we upgraded to some light broadband, but it wasn't good enough for streaming. And when I entered my first year of college, the Wi-Fi there was 100 up, 100 down, even over Wi-Fi in the university library. And that was just mind-boggling to me. So as a nerd, I wanted to test it for streaming. So on my laptop that I was writing an essay on in the library, and again, this is a university library, so I wasn't doing anything with audio. I just stream to screen capture of me writing an essay in Word for an assignment. And that happened to get a couple viewers who knew some bigger YouTubers, and I wound up doing a Call of Duty dual commentary, which is what we called collabs back then, with them. And things kind of blew up a little bit there. I quickly learned over those next couple years that gaming YouTubing was not really for me, and started doing a bit more of the tutorial side. And that is what I was really getting enjoyment out of until I started my relationship with my now wife, and we actually were doing what we called co-op Let's Plays way before the concept of like the Game Grumps and all of these like groups doing Let's Plays together really ever became a thing. We were kind of ahead of the curve with that regard, but I had no clue how to really market it or get clickable thumbnails or anything like that. And so it did not perform well. Meanwhile, as I mentioned, I was making videos on OBS, which was becoming a thing, and programs like that. And those videos started really taking off. So the end of the year that I went full-time with my MCN, the writing was on the wall that the tech content was outperforming gaming content by like 100 to 1, and it was just kind of hurting my channel to do gaming content anymore. And so I just kind of made a decision that Christmas that I was cutting off the gaming content. I would do it on an old channel or something if I wanted to keep doing it, or do it just on Twitch, and primarily stuck to tech. And things kind of really boomed from there. We got the launch of Windows 10, which was huge for my channel, and then the launch of OBS Studio, which was even huger for my channel. And I've been kind of focused on that ever since. For Twitch, I've never really been a full-time streamer. I've always focused on the stream education because that was more interesting to me. Figuring out how to stream was more interesting than the majority of game streams you can watch, nevertheless doing it myself. However, that MCN contract job that I had ran from, at least for full-time, ran from about 2014 to 2017. And it was that spring of 2017 that I quit. The MCN was crumbling and falling apart. It was really not a great place after all. And they were requiring too much of me. And then they went to a point where they actually paid me less for the month I had already worked without warning, to an extent that it wasn't enough to pay for my bills anyway if I was reliant on them. So I sent them that I was quitting effective immediately and started streaming to build what is now my OBS Masterclass. And with that, I effectively streamed full-time for about 4 months, because while I was still running my YouTube channel, I suddenly had this massive influx of free time due to quitting my MCN job, on top of the fact that my wife had just started a job as well. So like I had all this free time at home I dedicated towards streaming on Twitch, and was full-time for about 3 months. I think I was full-time for about 2 months before they introduced the affiliate program. The affiliate program hadn't even existed yet, and so as soon as they introduced it, I qualified and got in. And I used not only my long-term experience of streaming and working with streamers in the first place, but use that specific hands-on experience to build my OBS masterclass, which I produced over the course of all of 2017, starting in March, going through to the end of the year, released at the end of the year, going into 2018. And that kind of locked it in as, okay, after not wanting to niche out for my entire career, it was very clear that I was then the stream professor guy. And that's kind of how the niche kind of got locked in, even if I do cover other tech things as well. Fast forward to today, obviously my main focus is still streaming and content creation. However, I do produce gaming content sometimes on a side channel. I'll do game streams sometimes on Twitch. I will work with other gaming creators. I did a big Halo video back for the flights for Halo Master Chief Collection Season 7 with Digital Foundry, things like that. But my main focus here has been on streaming, and that is because I firmly believe that if you're chasing a career in a specific field, be it streaming, content creation, whatever, you need to look at the job that you want and the people that are doing the jobs and figuring out either the steps to get there or the steps to get a job close to that. And so we had a question in the text stage chat asking what I originally went to college for. I thought I was going to be a programmer because I was good with computers. I was a 90s kid. Everyone said I'd be the next Bill Gates or whatever, and I'd go to MIT and blah, blah, blah. That was a path that was kind of laid before me. I didn't like it, but I was still going with it. I didn't go to MIT, just to be clear. But that was the path I was following. But it was literally as I had already got accepted into that college for programming that I had finished up my high school programming classes, realized I did not have the attention span for it. My focus and ability to keep up with it just wasn't there. And I was more interested in the tech media side of things. And so I didn't even actually complete any programming courses at college. I immediately, I got accepted into the programming program. And immediately before I even started, when I signed up for courses, I transitioned to a general studies program, which was for the football players, not for everyone else. And then used that first year to get whatever general credits I needed and transferred to another school's journalism program to go from there. Do you remember Flash Media Encoder from back in the Justin TV days? Oh, man. I thankfully never had to use that. I used a quote-unquote completely legitimate copy of Wirecast because it was one of the first programs that would let you do two separate encoders so you could stream in one quality for Justin and Twitch and then record in a higher quality that way, because I was already obsessed even way back then with getting the highest possible quality for YouTube videos. But I helped some friends do FME, and I know a lot of people did, and it just seemed like hell. Streaming software has come a long way. But that's the, I guess, TLDR rundown of how I got to where I am. The usual spiel that I give. But I guess the purpose of this is to dive into additional questions or questions of you all about diving into your own career path. Packet following their college question says, I totally feel that. I didn't go to college, spent all of my free time outside of work teaching myself everything I needed to know. I'm now a data center site manager. Heck yeah. That's the way to go for a lot of people. Honestly, this comes up with a lot of creative fields, be it YouTube related or not, like film or photography as well. Whether or not you actually need to go to college or school for that specific job. And with YouTubing specifically, realistically you don't, but I will say my college career taught me basically zero direct hands-on skills that I needed for YouTube, both because that's not what it was geared towards, and frankly most traditional college paths won't do that because that's more what trade school is for or certifications are for anyway, but also because by the time I got to college I was already so invested in this new media scene. And keep in mind, while this was quite a little while ago, this was still, it's not like this was 20 years ago. I was in college from 2011 to 2015. So 10 years ago, I was already so invested in the quote-unquote new media scene that just by learning what I needed to learn for YouTube, I already kind of knew more than what was being taught in those courses in terms of basic camera usage and things like that. And again, I was in there for journalism, but it taught me so much about, as dumb as it is to say, the world, I guess, in terms of how to work with others, how to actually do research. Since I was in the journalism program, I learned a ton about researching, evaluating sources, disseminating information, putting all of that together. Skills that I use heavily in my job. Skills that my videos would be completely pointless without, and I would be one of those other streaming people on TikTok or YouTube who makes videos full of misinformation because I didn't bother to vet any of it for myself. Learned how to keep schedules and deadlines. Learned tons of like automation and efficiency tricks, like my video scheduling planners and things like that I've released in the past were things that I directly built with my college newspaper when I was the video editor for the newspaper that they used to track projects and papers and things like that, because that was the way it worked. And I got to learn a lot in that regard. And kind of, it's also a good like ego check. Like you go into it doing all this research and thinking you learn everything yourself, but when you get people who have actually done jobs in the industry, they kind of laugh at some of your silly stuff. Like I remember when I applied to be the video editor for the newspaper, which is not directly just video editing like on a timeline, but the editor role, the person who controls what gets published and helps people publish their stuff and all of that. One of the NLEs that I cited experience with was Vegas Pro, because I had used that up until like halfway through college, and then my college started offering Adobe CS6 for free, and so I switched to that and learned Premiere. I cited Vegas along with Premiere and other things as programs that I had a high level of understanding and experience with, and literally every single person, even the people who worked in actual newsrooms, kind of chuckled at me because Vegas, as much as it was a YouTuber's tool because it was easy to pirate, was mostly considered a joke in the industry and not really used. Meanwhile, however, keep in mind, a lot of people in like newsrooms and stuff only even use Premiere Elements. They don't even necessarily use Premiere Pro, but Vegas was that far out there. And there's lots of little things that would, I guess, be considered like ego-based or, you know, whatever, kind of niched out that the real world doesn't take super seriously, that you might think is the most important thing ever. And so a lot of that was really good for me, and I don't think I'd be anywhere near as skilled as I am or as capable as I am at doing the YouTube job that I do that did not require any direct, college experience without having gone through that and kind of learned and grown up with it. Many professionals like to laugh at hobbyist users, but we taught ourselves these skills because we want to learn and not because it's paying the bills. I mean, yes, I just meant that more in a sense of like in a sense, yes, but with a lot of things for these niche online things. If you're a quote unquote YouTuber filmmaker or something, you potentially have zero experience with the actual filmmaking world. Like think about the concept of making something quote unquote cinematic. None of that exists in the real world. Martin Scorsese or James Cameron or whoever director, Tarantino, they aren't obsessing over these bizarre little tricks to make their movies cinematic. Those are like handicaps or band-aids to making content that's already subpar appear to be better, even though it's not. It's not the same as, real cinema work and things like that. And so I think I do think it's important, even if it's not college. You can do internships, you can do PA jobs, which are personal assistant, production assistant jobs. You can shadow you can just write people and shadow them on their jobs at newsrooms or film sets or whatever if you have the right connections or in the right area. You can go audition for roles. You can just do some side work as a freelance job to get real world experience and see what the real workflows are like and kind of get a feel for, what people who know what they're doing care about. Because a lot of the time when you obsess over your favorite LUT pack or running in slow-mo to do your handheld coffee shop, that's good for getting a trendy video for like the 1.5 year time period that's a trend. But in the real world and for longer term skill development, most of those tricks and hacks aren't super useful. Got a comment from Stone Cipher Gaming. Just graduated from high school this year, and I want to go for coding for a while. But in my 12th grade year, I started to rethink my decision of doing it, and now I'm not going to college, but I still want to do coding, but for my own doing. And I felt like it would be a waste of money to go for a degree. I can see that. So, especially with coding. Like, coding is one of those things that is a skill that you can 100% teach yourself. You may not be able to teach yourself the thinking and the mindset behind it, But that's kind of was the same for me. Like if I want to learn coding, I can look up any number of tutorials, buy any number of books, participate in any number of practice exercises, and build up the coding experience, the language, the building block experience, and do it just fine. It's the more life skills, or the college is basically about teaching you how to think. It's not teaching you a specific thing. Like, especially if you think about it in like the context of high school. Like your history classes in high school, when they teach you how to memorize dates and names, that may be to help you get some context for facts so that you remember things. But ultimately, you're not learning anything about history in terms of the way history works or how you should be thinking about it or anything like that. Meanwhile, a good college history course will teach you how to think and how to analyze history and how to actually learn and think for yourself. And that is kind of the big difference. Whereas I would imagine a college level programming course, while there is a lot of, at least 101 level courses that teach you the intro to the language. From what I saw of the higher level courses, you talk, and this is going to sound super dumb because I don't have a ton of programming experience, but you talk about like the fundamentals of object-oriented programming and what that kind of thinking requires to then implement in the code. It's not about the specific, like, here's this block of code, here's this API, here's this library you need to call, etc. I know object-oriented programming is legacy. Again, it's been a while. But like those kinds of things. So like, for example, if you go to film school, you're not learning how to get the best settings for your Sony A7S III. You're learning composition and lighting. Unless you're in a crappy film school, then you're basically in a literature class and learning literature analysis. But that's still valuable as well. Hope that makes sense. By the way, people who are actually in the Discord server, feel free to do the request to speak if you want to jump in and participate. I'm going to be filtering out most of the people who are not in the server, simply because those of you who join and within 30 seconds want to raise your hand and then bounce, sorry, you can't possibly have anything to say if you haven't even heard anything I said. Appreciate you, but chill. We got Chris Fratz on the line.
You can
Over.
hear me fine, right?
Hello, yes, we can hear you. Breaker.
Oh, now my audio. I don't. I actually kind of have a question because I'm starting to like just appear on a small stream as like sometimes like a guest, and I was wondering, do you have any like tips that I could do to get better sound than what I already have? Like, I have the five-fine microphone that's like $30, and the proximity arm, as well as like just NVIDIA RTX voice and such. But do you know if there's any more I could do
to just improve your overall audio quality?
Yeah.
I actually just, hold on one second. I just screenshotted a wonderful thread in the comments, started up, and there are a couple tools. One that I have been meaning to look into for a long time is called Equalizer APO. And then there's another one, if I can find, oh my God, I lost track of. I literally had it pulled up so I could answer this question in a video soon. Hello? Actually, that's what search functions are for, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. By the way, never mind. Never mind. Where? Right here. All right. So Equalizer APO, and then the other one that I was really stoked on that is like a super old tool, if I recall correctly, is called VST Host. And both of these allow you to add filters to your mic before it gets passed to Discord or TeamSpeak, Zoom, whatever, for your guests without needing a Go XLR or Voice Meter or any of those crazy solutions. It's the pure purpose is to just slap the processing chain on your mic and make it better. And so I assume you at least saw that today's video that was posted about processing and the like. Those principles still apply, but this allows you to do it while not needing to like bounce it out of OBS or anything like that.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I wanted.
Alrighty. Thank you for chatting.
Yep. And I'll just go back down to the audience.
Sit down, listener. APO is good, but I like to get into the weeds with VST plugins. Yeah, I mean, this is more just for, like they said, if you're getting into a interview call or something and you don't want to set up something crazy. I truly don't recommend Voice Meter, even though it has the VST capabilities, especially if that's just what you want. So setting up a basic chain really works there. The core audio AAC encoder, that's useful if you're in OBS, but not if you're on someone else's call. So that's not necessarily the way to go. We have Texas Toast on the line.
Thank you for having me.
Sir, this is Wendy's.
I started streaming a couple of years ago on a platform that you don't like. You've said that you don't like several times. But mostly I just want to say thank you, because I found your videos on YouTube when I was trying to figure out how to make my streams look and sound better, and yours were the first videos that popped up, and I've been subscribed to you since then for 2 years now, and I watch all your videos, and everything that you do is very, very helpful. So thank you very much for this service that you give us for free. You just put it up on YouTube, and we get to watch this and improve our streams and our shows, and it just really helps. Having someone like you on our side is huge. So thank you very much for everything that you do.
I'm glad to help. I'm glad that it was helpful. I'm curious if 2 years ago, what platform you were on then for me not to like it.
I streamed to Facebook.
And yeah, that's fine.
On your videos, you always take a jab at Facebook,
well,
and it always makes me chuckle every time you do.
It's really frustrating because I really like what the Facebook Live team does.
Yeah.
But everyone has, obviously, there's a ton of baggage that comes with Facebook itself and all of that. And so I'm always jabbing at those. But, like, at some point I want to dive in. But there's, like, I've looked at the back end and stuff, and they have a ton of crazy tools.
It's crazy. They change it all the time, too.
Yeah.
Like, every week they change my streamer dashboard or my resources or my tools. And they never tell us anything. I'm not in the partnership program. I'm in their level up program.
Right.
So I don't know if maybe they're more open with their partners, but I've friends with some partners on Facebook, and I don't think they are, because they're also in the dark, and we're just kind of in the dark feeling around. And it definitely does have its downsides, but I do enjoy streaming to Facebook.
From what I've heard, it's a really small, like, you would think it's Facebook, they have all the money, but, like, the actual Facebook gaming team, at least, is actually really small. That's what I understand too. Yeah. But yeah, glad to help. For those of you watching that are not actually in the Discord, because there's quite a few of you joining in, this whole server is dedicated to helping you, improve your stream, answer questions, get tech help, all of that. So feel free to hit that join button while you're there as well. And like they said, costs you absolutely nothing.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. All right. You guys are so nice. Twitch does the same thing. Oh, about changing things without telling you. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I absolutely, like, every time I've logged into the Facebook tools and looked at them, they look great. There are some really good control things. It's just, I wish this team had the funding, the backing, whatever, to build it on a thing that wasn't associated with the Zucks. But not everyone cares about that, and there's a huge audience to have there that a lot of people, especially in other, like, countries, like, I think Brazil is one country that is booming on Facebook right now. And so regionally and things like that, there are certainly advantages to it as well, on top of the fact that you're just reaching people who are already on Facebook. But Cujo asks, what's one piece of gear that if you could go back in time, you'd tell yourself to buy sooner? Lighting. Oh, man. Lighting. I know everyone's saying audio. I actually invested in audio early. Granted, I didn't go the right route because I was a clueless YouTuber. The first mic I bought that wasn't a webcam mic was the Blue Snowball, which I still have. Not a great mic. Excuse me. Granted, it was a huge upgrade over my webcam audio, obviously, so it was pretty solid. However, what I never did until, like, years into my YouTube career was figure out lighting, like actual videography things. And that was something I've always looked back at with a little bit of frustration on my behalf. Was I was super in on the technical side of things. So I knew how to set everything up on the computer. I knew about the software. I knew how to get the camera. We were using webcams at the time. I was super poor. I had like a C310 720p webcam was my upgraded webcam. I knew how to get all that set up. I built me a nice PC for it, the capture card, all of that. But in terms of my dream to make videos, and actually my aspirations to be a videographer extended a little bit prior to my college career and all of that. I got a mini DV camcorder when I was super young, and I wanted to make skateboarding videos with my buddies and try to get quote-unquote sponsored and all of that. And I never really went anywhere with it because I never really had any, or felt like I had any means to get any sort of like coaching or facilitating me to improve my actual video production skills, composition, lighting, any of that. And so tons of my videos, if I were ever shooting anything with just like my webcam and stuff, I had my typical bedroom ceiling fan light behind my head and no lighting actually hitting my face, and it all looked terrible as a result, when even just some sort of basic light would have been a huge upgrade. And, you know, even just a little one pointing at the wall, bouncing back at me. Like, if I could go back in time and tell myself, hey, here's some give myself a basic photography 101 book and be like, yo, this is what's holding you back right now, things could have been a lot different. I'm not the one who says, oh, that could have changed everything and made it better, but like, that could have made things pretty sweet. And it was just not something I learned until I had already dropped 800 bones on a T3i, and then was like, whoa, I need to buy softboxes. Oh, I need a shotgun mic. Oh, I need a mic stand to get that shotgun mic close to me. It wasn't until I had a quote-unquote real camera that I really started investing in the production assets. Now, granted, at the time, a lot of the content I was making was heavily focused on the gameplay capture, because that's what I wanted to be. So it was the capture card footage, and the format at the time was just gameplay with a microphone, not, not face cam. Like, face reveals were still a thing. It wasn't normal for people to show their face in the gaming scene. And so when I did use the webcam, it's not like there was the context of a bunch of other creators showing up with that. But yeah, going back in time, I would totally I would either tell myself to invest in lights or just hand myself a bunch of photography and videography 101 books, and would have learned a lot from there. And yes, those of you getting friend requests from the people joining, just ignore them. I don't think we get bots. We just get a lot of new joins from the stage channel. Those of you joining not to troll, welcome. This is the Stream Professor's Classroom, Discord server dedicated to tech support, tech help, learning about content creation and streaming, based around my YouTube channel for that very purpose. Got a question from Ginja. Do you still have any faith in any other platforms such as Trovo/Glimish or perhaps even Facebook to be a major competitor to the big guys? Yeah, major competitor, no. I think that they can be a competitor, and so I wish I had video on. This would be the point where I like really punched in on my camera. In terms of value to the streamer, I don't think Twitch and YouTube streaming necessarily need a quote-unquote major competitor. They don't necessarily need, well, okay, that's why I was clarifying that, because in terms of competition and forcing Twitch to actually improve their site and stuff, yeah, there needs to be competition, but I only think that's ever really going to come from YouTube. But in terms of what the streamers need, I don't think we need a major competitor to Twitch or YouTube or anything like that. What I think streamers really need is a variety of stable, safe places that they can call their home to stream on. Especially, you know, the Mixer crowd, who really jived with the Mixer community, found it to be their place, the place they wanted to visit, and they wanted to stream to and build their community on, that was different from Twitch. The community that they were able to foster there, the people, the viewers there, the expected norms and acceptabilities were very different from Twitch to Mixer. And I think a lot of those people can find it on YouTube. It'll just be harder than a dedicated streaming site. But I think a lot of those people just needed homes for their streams that aren't going to get yanked out from under them. And I think, assuming they can stay around, Glimish is probably the perfect place for that. Assuming, you know, they get caught up and they don't get yanked and pulled around and whatever. In terms of holding their own to actually compete, I don't know. Facebook, it's really hard to tell because, as we just mentioned, it is a very small team working it, which says to me that Facebook is not heavily invested in it. And it's kind of like the Google approach, where if, you know, they're going to give enough money behind it, but not enough to necessarily guarantee its success. And so they could shut it down at any point when they decide it's not worth it anymore, once they've decided they've missed the trend to capitalize or what have you. Trovo, I don't see Trovo necessarily going anywhere anytime soon because it's backed by, if you don't know, Tencent, which is a major Chinese publisher that is involved in video games in China that owns just like half of the gaming industry at the moment. They have all the money in the world, and they just kind of run projects forever just for the fun of it. And it's also managed by a small team, but a small team that's based in the States that I feel like that for the English-facing Trovo that I feel like Tencent HQ like doesn't even pay attention to, so they can do whatever they want. And at one point in time, their partner application was a Google Docs form, and you just got to lie about your numbers. It was a mess. I don't see it necessarily going anywhere, but it's a very niche thing. Like, it's effectively a streaming platform for Tencent games, like the mobile PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile, those kinds of games. And I think if that's your audience and that's what you want to play, it would be honestly kind of dumb to not tune into those sites and kind of get your viewership going on there. But I don't foresee it at any point really catching up to or seriously competing with Twitch or Facebook. Like, I don't think there's a world in which that makes sense, if you understand what I'm saying. We have a stage invite from Coach719. Welcome to the stage if you'd like to join us, if you have a question here. Going once, going twice. Welcome. What is your question?
Yo, I got a question to ask you.
What's up?
Yo, do you believe in Jesus?
Not relevant to this discussion. Thanks, though.
Alright. Then are you a schmuck?
Okay, moving on. Thank you for that insight. Really interesting to hear your perspective on these things. Yeah, glad to have these kinds of questions. Harris Heller, don't know why I'm saying his name like this. Harris Heller, from the Alpha Gaming YouTube channel, if you're not familiar with him, he posted a video recently about talking about what stream site competitors need to actually like be worth it to compete with Twitch. And I haven't agreed with a lot of his takes in regard to streaming platforms. Like, he's very locked into the idea that you should not be streaming on a site that doesn't already have critical mass and the stability. And I understand why. And he personally, and this isn't like my story to tell, but this is stuff he's put in videos, so I won't go beyond that. He personally had an experience where he made a career on Vine, and then Vine was ripped out from under him. And as a creator, I know what that would feel like and why you would never want to recreate that again. And so I understand why his perspective is informed the way that it is and why he would feel that way. 100% fine. Like, that's his stance to have. That's great. But the video that he put out about the Brimes and Trovos and Glemishes of the world was actually really solid in his stances of how streaming sites need to prove themselves. And I still don't, I still don't entirely agree with his core idea, but the idea that they need to be run by professional or mature management in order to ever possibly succeed, I think is 100% must. And he specifically had the same kind of encounters I did with the Brime people, which even under new management are full of children who don't know how to behave properly. And they've made claims about how they're just going to ignore DMCA and it's totally going to be fine and things like that. Those are the signs of streaming sites you don't want to be involved in. And that was the whole reason, starting last summer, why I was like red alerting about Brine this whole time. Because especially at the time when Twitch really started its kind of big plummet in terms of PR back then, the big issue came down to management with Twitch. The upper management making terrible decisions and the rest of the management seeming really immature in terms of rule enforcement, ability to stick to the rules, favoritism, and all of that. And the last thing you want is to leave a streaming website because of a lack of maturity and jump to a streaming website that's seemingly ran by the most immature people possible. And that is what I like to see about sites like Glimish, and weirdly enough Trovo, because Trovo's like corporate and detached enough to not really have to deal with most of that. Although supposedly there's been a fair bit of drama in their Discord or something, but I just don't join it. Like, I'm not worried about that. But from what I've seen of the interviews with the Glimish staff and things like that, like, they have had a solid plan. They've been working on it for over a year before they really launched. They've got solid ideas in their head and solid management, and they're not participating in petty drama or any sort of bizarre, immature things that would tell you maybe I don't want to base my community or my career on this very platform. And so I definitely think his video on that is worth a watch because I think it highlights a lot of points about, those kinds of things. We got a stage request. Oh, they went away. Never mind. People like... just to be clear, for those of you who are new to this Discord stage channel things, if someone's in the middle of completing a sentence or a couple sentences, they're not going to bring you up on the stage in the middle of their talking. They're going to wait until the sentence breaks. So if you raise your hand while they're talking and then undo the hand raise before they finish talking, you're never gonna get brought up. That's how like panels at conventions work. If you show up while the people on stage are still talking and then you run away before it gets to Q&A time, it's not going to work. We've got a request from Ender here. Ender, welcome to the... oh, they no longer have a request. Over and out. Packet 43, if you were to set up a live streaming platform, if you had unlimited resources, what it would look like? Honestly, like, I'm probably not the one to run a streaming platform. But what it would look like is effectively Twitch combined with some of the elements of Mixer with staff, like with the mid to, public-facing staff full of people who have already existed in the community that reps it. Like, for example, who is it? Is it a Goliathan that went to work with Facebook Gaming after working for Mixer? Like, long-time, well-established streamer, good face of the community, can also do a good job repping the company on also advocating for the streamers themselves. So I want people who are involved, but not just looking out for their own self-interests, as the community managers and the people actually advocating for the streamers. I'd want a management structure that actually involved looking out for streamers' best interests while also keeping monetization in mind, and a healthy gamut of tools to moderate content ID, community guidelines issues, etc. And also just establishing from the get-go to not be like Twitch and actually have consistent rule enforcement in the first place. There has to be a line between not throwing away your biggest money-making streamers, but also not letting them get away to the extent that bans are effectively a paid vacation. But there's a huge undertaking involved. There's also, the technical side of things in terms of the bandwidth and the processing power. We could get into the granularity of that, but that, frankly, doesn't matter as much. The thing that I would need to really focus on, and like I said, I have the self-awareness to realize that I'm probably not the right person to be put in charge of that, but I would definitely delegate to finding the right people for that, is the management and the content creator relations to manage it, because that's where most of them fail. At this point, like, this is going to sound like a complete contradiction here, but the technical, like, streaming aspects, even though that's the most expensive and the most, I guess, prohibitive aspects of running a streaming site, because no one on their own can usually do it, that's the easy part, because you just get a software infrastructure in place. There's already templates for that in existence. You already get that in place. It's the act of running it that is the hard part, which, as Matt is bringing up, involves legal aspects. There's a ton with that. Like I mentioned with Prime, they've just decided that they're going to somehow convince the RIA and MPAA to just not send DMCA takedowns, which isn't how the world works. And Twitch with their gambling issues at the moment and all of that kind of thing. Like, you need people who understand these kinds of specific fields and come from those fields. And frankly, the big thing that I would say is to do everything possible to not, quote-unquote, sell out to a major mega corporation, because there's really no way to maintain the integrity of the platform when that happens, IMO. And we've seen that through YouTube's inherent live streaming, because the features, the sudden dropping of entire massive branches like YouTube Gaming and all of that, while not being blamed directly on anything, are directly like characteristic of the Google approach to things, where you make some tools, you never give them the resources they need, and then you drop them out of nowhere, or you only make them halfway or whatever. Those are Google influences, very big, and there's definitely been a drastic shift in the management and the weird decisions and the profit-focused ventures of Twitch ever since being acquired by Amazon. And I think a lot of those issues were already there. I think a lot of their original upper management was already immature on its own. It was kind of started by a bunch of kids who just wanted to do something cool and then branched out, and it got sold off from there. But I think the act of running a platform is far more problematic and needs to be worked on than building it on a technical level. And that is what so many of these new sites got wrong last year. And we saw so many of them popping up that all had the same idea. I can build a basic website that live streams video to a bunch of people. And while most of them vastly underestimated what the actual technical requirements for that are in the first place, that wasn't the problem. When you show up and you're like, yeah, we can stream video, but I'm going to dox viewers in our Discord for saying mean stuff about me, and I'm going to tell popular YouTubers to go F themselves, that's a sign that you don't want to build a career on a platform ran by people who behave that way. And very rarely will you ever see a big tech company or a successful tech company run by people who behave that way, or at least behave that way for any significant amount of time. How would you feel about a streaming platform dedicated to IRL stuff, like building, music, exploring? I think it might be harder to get noticed on Twitch because people immediately think it's gaming, not IRL streams. So that is changing, and that is an incredibly ironic thing to say, given that the big gamer boy complaint, for lack of a better word, about Twitch is that it's not about the games anymore, when it definitely is. Luigi, I promise I'll bring you up in just a sec. I do think you're better off being on an existing platform rather than one dedicated to that. However, there are sites, like there was one that used to be huge called Livestream. They actually made hardware for streaming at one point, and there's dedicated sites for sports and stuff like that. And then, of course, if you're doing like more basic vlogging kind of IRL streams, you'd be better off streaming that to an Instagram or TikTok or something than a dedicated site anyway, because that's where the critical mass of viewers are. I more think that a healthy streaming site needs a healthy blend of pillars and, content pillars and niches that get covered. So, for example, Mixer, right before they shut down, introduced an education category that involved a lot of really neat tools for education streams. And I actually pitched them a partner, to become a Mixer partner to do some of my work there because I thought it was going to be that powerful. And they denied me because I wasn't a Mixer streamer. And it was a template copy-paste denial. But I really wish Twitch would kind of implement some of that. We have Luigi on the line, or Luigi calling in. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Welcome to join the stage, Luigi91. Welcome.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going, EposVox? I was gonna say thank you for all the tutorials you do for streaming. I've been following your channel for, I think, over 3 years now.
Oh, heck yeah.
And yeah, I've been learning so much, especially with the audio side of things. Like my audio for streaming and everything has been improved like so much after watching your videos. And here's the thing I want to say, like I enjoy streaming a lot, but there's the moments that I just don't know what happens. I just lose motivation to keep doing it. And like I will stream like, 2 or 3 weeks, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, and then suddenly you stop streaming for like 2 weeks or lose the motivation. How do you keep yourself motivated to, keep making content, keep streaming and all that?
Couple things to consider. First and foremost, if that seems to be a repeating pattern for yourself, then I would even potentially log it like in a spreadsheet or on a document or something and see if it's consistent enough that then you can plan breaks around it, because it's a lot healthier to like preemptively take a break and give yourself that rest time or that disconnect time than reach that point of burnout, and because then you're feeling guilty for it or beating yourself up for it or being like, why don't I like this anymore? When realistically, you just needed some time to breathe, or potentially just streaming less during those periods where you are streaming in the first place. Because maybe if you reduce the frequency of your streams, you don't necessarily need as big of a break, but for that big couple week where you don't stream anymore, you may not need that as much because you're not going all in on it. And also it's a matter of really just figuring out and finding why you actually want to do it. Because if it's and this may not apply to you, and I'm speaking generally to everyone here, but like if you're basing like, I guess the secondary source of your motivation on how well it's doing or something like that, then you're setting yourself up to reach that point where it's like, okay, I'm all in. Because I've done this in the past. I still do this with certain projects, and I've seen tons of people do this. But like, you're like, okay, I learned everything I need to do. It's time to go all in on streaming. And then you stream for a few weeks, and you're like, whoa, I'm not getting the results I expected. I must suck, or I'm bored of it, or something's not right. And then you stop, and then after a break, your brain has kind of reset from that disappointment, and you're like, okay, I can do it for real this time. Whereas if you find a better like intrinsic reason that you care about streaming, or a better objective that you want to get out of it other than viewership or something, you can stay more motivated because you're not dependent on other people. You're more dependent on completing tasks or building up certain things. So that could be building up a library of cool clips that you share on another platform, which indirectly helps bring new viewers to your stream, or learning new skills that then you can start hunting for jobs in the broadcast or video creation field instead of just streaming for yourself, or maybe using streaming to kind of get a gaming group together to then go do game nights, and that's really kind of your objective instead of just streaming for a general audience. Something like that, to where, you know, you're not streaming just to see how many people show up, and then when you're not full-time in a couple weeks, you're like, oh man, time to stop and start over.
All right.
Healthy breaks are important. And so, like I said with the first point, like, if those 2 weeks are what you need to keep it consistent, then just consider that in whatever schedule you publish. Be like, you can even plan it out in advance. Either, you know, you could alternate, like every other week you stream, or I'm going to stream the first 2 weeks of the month, take a break for the middle month, stream the next couple months or couple weeks or whatever. And as long as that's communicated, the breaks don't really hurt your quote unquote progress for like building your stream or whatever.
All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I think we had one more text chat before I get to the next hand raising here. Nope. Am I imagining it? I swear. Oh, got any tips for balancing life? I feel like I have FOMO and never have time to hang out and chat in servers after going to work all day and spending time with family. My chat time is a fraction of a fraction I was doing a year ago. Definitely leads to a feeling of isolation. So FOMO is fear of missing out. So balancing work with fun. I'm going to be completely upfront honest with you. I am a robot. I am not necessarily the most well-suited person to answering the work-life balance, because I have always overweighted my work in my work-life balance. That's obviously changed quite a bit as I've gotten married and had a kid and all of that. But it definitely comes down to just like premeditated scheduling and prioritizing what is most important to you. If, for example, you're attempting to do some sort of content creation or streaming, but really all you care about is like making the friends from it, then prioritizing just hanging out and having your you time being chatting in those servers rather than trying to build something, especially if you already have a stable job, that's probably a little bit more important than streaming and sacrificing your friend time, or blocking it out so that, okay, you work all day, you have X time of family time when you get home, and then you have me time. Or perhaps you schedule your me time immediately after you get home from work because you just need to cool down. If you can get your family to be on board with it, you have a couple hours where you just go hang out, chat in your servers, catch up on YouTube videos. I used to do this when I got home from college and stuff. That was my usual routine. And then after that point, you got to move on, go have dinner with your family, and finish up your normal life. It's definitely about building routine and finding how it can work with your family, and just kind of communicate. You don't need to, it can be weird to bring up to a spouse or kids. Well, I guess you're not letting the kids make the decision, but, bring up to your family and be like, yeah, I need time to go chat with some strangers on a Discord server, right? Every night. But like, to communicate, like, everyone needs you time and space and everything like that. That's a completely normal thing that everyone needs in a healthy life. And so finding a way to balance so that you get that, even if it's a couple times per week, is the way to go. And really, like, it's kind of like how a lot of us manage emails and things like that. You kind of just have to set a block of time, do everything you can on that task in that block of time. And if you miss out on some conversations and some servers, no big deal. Realistically, it's a Discord server. You're not necessarily missing out on a lot. Hope that helps at all. We've got Tippy, I believe, raising their hand to come in, and then we'll get to Blue Beyblade as we are wrapping up here. Feel free to come on stage if you'd like. Going once, going twice, and moving on to Blue Beyblade 06. How you doing? This is Wendy's. You are muted. Howdy.
Hello.
Hi. Do you have a streaming or career chasing related question for the audience?
No.
Okay. Hope you enjoy listening then. Welcome back, Tippy. Will it let you connect this time? There you go. You are also muted. Give you a second to figure out your audio. And goodbye. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left in today's stream stage event. Appreciate you all hanging out with us. If you have any additional career stream related questions, feel free to post in the stage chat that we can answer, going here as we wrap up. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Otherwise, I did just post a massive audio guide. Oh, I did not see your question, Derek. I will get to it in just a second. I did just post a massive audio guide to my YouTube channel. It's been pretty much all week polishing it up and the like, so be sure you check that out. Oh yeah, Derek asks, what's one piece of advice you'd give your past self? I do think mostly if we're talking like practical, tangible advice, I think the whole bit about learning photography basics and things like that would be huge for my past self. If we're talking like personal advice, honestly, as ironic as this sounds, given the whole subject of today's talk and the like, I think my piece of advice would have been to take YouTube and streaming and things like that less seriously. And it's really hard to say that knowing that unknown number of doors that I opened for myself through taking it so seriously were how I got here. But especially in college and high school, especially in college. High school, I was still building up to it. But especially in college, I went from in high school not having a clue what I would do for a career, being completely unmotivated, uninterested in working or doing real work. I just wanted to come home and play Halo 3 all day. Then in college, YouTube became the thing. It was the career I wanted to chase. I was locked in on it, and I took it so seriously that I never really hung out with friends much. When I did become, the newspaper editor for my college newspaper, and I got to work on the newspaper team and actually work on the newspaper and do all this cool stuff, I mostly, spent time, I would spend as minimal time as required to complete the assignments or to do the weekly newspaper edit, and go home and work on YouTube when there were a lot more networking opportunities, community involvement things that I feel like I missed out on now that seemed completely pointless and counterproductive at the time, because as far as I knew, I needed to grind every minute of every day on this YouTube channel. And just like my advice I give to streamers about not streaming every hour of every day, taking time to build things up in quote-unquote real life is a little bit more important sometimes. And I do wish there were certain times, be it in building up my relationship with my now wife, friends that I had from high school that went to my first university that I just didn't spend any more time with, or participation in the relevant things at my second college. I should have been more present with those, and I was so focused on this YouTube goal. And it's good to be driven by a goal. That was why I was so certain that this is what I wanted to be, because I went from being completely unmotivated and uninterested in so many, in doing anything really, to being completely driven and focused towards this objective and this career path. But I don't think it requires sacrificing so much in the real world department. But I took it so seriously that I had no way not to. So I think that would be my primary, point of advice, is to be a little bit more present in the real world. Chris Frats, how do you feel about people using virtual avatars to represent themselves instead of a webcam for streams? So this is effectively the concept known as VTubing. I used to think it was really weird when it was a brand new, strange thing. But as it evolves, I actually think it's really cool. And I'm diving in on it soon. I have some personal reasons that I think it would be really cool, on top of from the technical aspect. It seems really interesting. I think it's a really great idea for people who don't feel comfortable being on camera. as Matt literally just said, we already have avatars. There are social media profiles. Like right now, me as EposVox, the stream professor, is not the same person I am as Adam in real life. There are many consistencies, and if anything, I'm just like an amplification of certain aspects of myself. But I am not EposVox at home. Doesn't work that way. And so attaching that to a character that you can customize more to your liking and fine-tune to represent who you are more effectively, I think is an incredible gain to have with content creation, especially in the more niche minorities like LGBT people, which I am technically in that group, but not relevant necessarily to that. But that's not the point. But it's also a really interesting hobby in terms of the technical aspect. You've got... you still need a webcam. You still kind of need lighting. Then there's motion tracking. Then there's all the animation rigging. It's really fascinating to see stuff that would have taken hours, like months of post-production work that you can do in real time now. And it's really interesting to look at. I think especially as we get more hyper-real kind of avatars instead of just anime waifus or whatever, that it's going to be something a lot more people are interested in, because there's already a ton of content out there on YouTube where a face isn't present because the person either isn't feeling good that day, they don't feel like getting dressed. Like I have plenty of days where I can't shoot videos because I need a shower and change of clothes, and my hair gets disastrous at all points in time, and it's too hot to wear like a shirt that isn't a tank top or my beanie that I have to wear or whatever. And being able to just use a virtual avatar would be a lot easier. There's a lot of people that have that. They have dysphoria. They have reasons that they would not want to be present on camera, and this would allow them to do that. But at the same time, like there's a balance between, because there's a rule with video and general content in the first place that you connect more with pictures and representations of like actual people more than not. That's a rule of photojournalism, of videography, or whatever. And so you have to balance that by producing the virtual avatar with the disconnect that any number of normal mainstream viewers may encounter by seeing a virtual avatar and being like, well, this is weird. This isn't a real person. Why are you this way? Or choosing, something really out there for your virtual avatar and then being like, what the heck? Why do this? Whereas they wouldn't have been so critical of you in terms of just hearing your voice. So there's a balance there that you have to consider. And that's a personal choice. And whatever. But like I said, I am very interested in the VTubing scene, especially as it has evolved. And I think we're going to see a lot more of it. All right, that wraps up. It is 7 o'clock. Thank you for hanging out in today's Discord stage channel event. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. That flag was a fail. Thanks, Discord. Anyway. Hope you guys have a great time. If you're new to the server, if you're just visiting in from the public chat, join us on the Discord. Click the Discord button. We have a whole server dedicated to helping you with your tech, helping you with your streams, getting you set up to master your live streams or your tech or content creation, as well as some other nerdy stuff about games, photography, coding, movies, 3D printing, all sorts of stuff. And check me out on YouTube, youtube.com/EposVox. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you later. Bye.